Hello and welcome. We are going to be discussing 2025, my reading wrapped. Most of this information is coming from Storygraph. I did add an honorable mention category. This is not everything you get from the Storygraph wrapped, but I thought it would be a little bit fun. Also in this video, we're going to be talking about the first book I read in 2026. I hope that you enjoy this video and let's get into it. Okay, so I obviously did not start this channel at the beginning of 2025, so there was some books that won't show on this channel. And even when I read other books, I put it in my book bingo, but I never actually made a video about it. I mean, even with my book bingo, I never made an official video. I only just posted about it, including on, the post tabs here. Um, and people on TikTok have found that book bingo that I made for 2025, and they were like loving it. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I also re-went over the categories like for the bingo, and I'm like, dang, some of them are really hard. But let's get into 2025. My first book that I read for that year was Mortuary the Patriot Volume 2. Now, some of these I have the books for, and some of them I don't. Um, let's talk about this book a little bit. I read volume 1 in 24, right? And I could not find this book literally at all. And there was a glare. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I couldn't find this book. I read book 1, I read volume 124, right? And I was just like, oh my gosh, I want to read more. I'm in love. Like, let's see, right? I then went on a scavenger hunt all across the city I was in at the time, because I was at university, graduated, all that stuff. But at the time I was in university, so I was literally going around to different like bookstores across the city trying to find this book. Obviously, I eventually found it, but at that point I'm like, okay, now it's 2025. Let this be like the first book I was reading. Also, I need you guys to remember that I was in a huge reading slump for the majority of the year. And because of that, and because I was in university, I purposely set my TBR, not TBR, my reading challenge, like goal thing, how many books I wanted to read, low. And I just did that every year for university because I knew I wouldn't necessarily have the time. But first book I read was Mortuary the Patriot Volume 2. I loved it. I actually rated this 4.5 stars, which is a lot for me. Usually, I rate books 3 stars or around there. Um, and I think that's pretty good. That means like I liked it. It's like good. Okay, it's not great, but it's not bad, right? The last book. Oh, the average rating that Storygraph gave for me was 4.31 stars for a rating, so like I was around the same star average. The last book I read for 2025, well, I already put it on, the app, which is I read Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. That's my last book of 24. Not 24, my last book of 2025. And I really tried to finish Iron Flame, and then Storygraph gave me my Wrapped, and then I was like, I'm done reading for the year. um, true. But this is the last book for 2025, and I rated this book 3.5 stars. The average was 4.03. So, similar, kind of close. Um, I'm noticing though, and I'm just noticing it now, the first and last book will majority blue covers. Interesting. Um, okay, so that's my first book and that's my last book. Let's get into how many books did I read. And I'm like, Cheyenne, didn't even say how many books you read. I read 57 books and 14,841 pages. My average star read was 3.16. Nothing new there. My highest rated month, right? So that means out of the months, the month out of all 12 months, the month that I had the highest rating for books that I gave out was in January, and that was 4.5. Makes sense. um, my lowest rated month was June, and I gave an average of 2.25. Anyways, let's jump to my 5-star read. Now, here's something about me. I do not give out 5-star reads easily, and I also, for the most part, I don't do it. Like, I don't. That being said, Sheila's Pharaohs was my five and only 5-star read of 2025. Um, I actually reread a 5-star read because I do that every year, and I read it that year in 2025. Um, and it went from a 5-star to a 3-star. Not because it was bad, but I recognized it was no longer hitting the same, right? But as of right now, this is, well, not as of right now. This is the only 5-star read out of 2025 that I had. So for my reading goals, I met it by 228% for a book. For a page, I met it by 297%. So much. So much. Um, my longest book, I don't have it. Attack on Titan, oh, this version, like the bind ups, 576 pages. I was curious about reading books I read as a child or when I was younger, and one of them was Magic Tree House. And because I was doing deep dives, I was also trying to figure out like what my next one was going to be on. And I had an idea that I'm not going to talk about or like say, not because I don't think I'm going to do it, but because I don't want to actually lock myself into it. But I had an idea about the Magic Tree House and questions and stuff like that, but I wanted to read the Pulse book. And then I read the Pulse book and I went, I don't think I want to do this. And then I thought about the Twilight and the Avatar one deep dives, and now here we are. But I did read this book, so it's Magic Tree House, Book 1, Dinosaurs Before Dark, by Mary Pope Osborne. So this is, in fact, my shortest book that I read. I did not rate it. For some of these, I didn't rate. I don't feel comfortable rating a child's book as I am an adult, but I did read it. I'm definitely going to say I did read it. We are going to get into the book that took me the shortest amount of time and then the book that took me the longest amount of time, which it might shock you for the longest amount of time. Then we're going to get into my top 3 authors that I read, in 25, but that just simply means the most amount of books of that author I consumed in the year. And then my top 5 genres, meaning what are the top 5 genres that I read of the year. Not my favorite genres, but I mean, I'm pretty sure they kind of go hand in hand at this point. But the book that took me the shortest amount of time was Mortuary the Patriot Volume 2. Makes sense, but you have to keep in mind, I was searching for this book. I read Volume 1 again in 2024 and then was searching. When I found this series, I was just walking through a bookstore, just like, okay, I kind of want to pick up a new book. And I was in the manga section, and I was just like, okay, what can I see? What can I find? And I picked up Volume 1, And yes, I looked at the price because I was just like, I don't want to do like a 20 to 25 dollar gamble in this economy. I didn't really want to do it, but I was like, okay, so it's 11.99, so $12. It sounds good, and that was for volume one. Loved volume one. I went to volume two. Right. So this took me a day to read. I was so excited for it. I doesn't surprise me. And then for the book that took me the longest amount of time, no, no, I'm kidding on that one. Was actually Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead because at this point I was taking notes chapter by chapter for the deep dive on this. Um, as I went, and so it took me so much time. I it took me 33 days. It took me 33 days to read this book. Um, It's not long. It's just I was unsure what I should include in my notes. It's only 332 pages, but with a reading slump, with university, with trying to figure out what I should and should not have in my notes, and then I lost my notes. I'm unsure if I've talked about that before. I had written notes and then I went, maybe it would be better to have them digital. Then I took all my written notes, put them in a digital note, like Google Doc, and then somehow it must have got deleted because I still cannot find that Google Doc anywhere. And so the couple chapters that I had put in there, then I had to write down again. So Vampire Academy, it took me 33 days, my full deep dive on this channel. Two DNFs in 2025. One is the author of Attack on Titan. I am not going to say his name because I am going to mess it up really, really bad. And out of respect, I am not going to butcher his name. I am so sorry. So he is the author I read most of in 2025. I read 15 of his books. And when they're bound up like this, I included them as one. The next one we have Ishiro Oda. I'm sorry. Um, I read 12 volumes of One Piece. So I did finish East Blue. Um, and I have book thoughts on all of the One Piece that I have out. The next author that I read the most of their books in 2025 is Horso Asul. Horso Asul. 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 Okay, I'll try this one even though Hajmin Isimana. Isimana. Isho Oda. Horso Asul. Horso Asul. I'm so sorry. I cannot. My brain is not letting me pronounce any of these awful names correctly. I'm so sorry. But with Alice in Borderland, I really enjoyed the series. I picked it up after watching Netflix's Alice in Borderland, and I actually started watching it for season two, and then I went, I don't trust Netflix to finish its series. And I thought that. And so I started reading them. However, I only read 3 volumes, so that is 5, 6, and 7 in 2025. The other books I read in 2024. Right? So I didn't grab the other ones because I just got the first book in the series. Just like I just got the first book in this one and in this one. So that way, if you want to read the series, I'm like, this is my most read authors of 25. These are the first volumes of them. And if you're like Cheyenne, I didn't think that you liked manga. And just saying because some of the book talks are on manga. Also, I really enjoy this one. My top 5 genres of 2025, meaning which ones did I read more of? This actually shocked me. This actually shocked me. If you're like Cheyenne, what are your top 5 that's gonna pop up? Because I don't keep track of it. Like I put it in Storygraph and I let Storygraph keep track, and then by the end of the year it tells me the data. Because I don't feel like I like fantasy. So my top 5 genres. Actually, take a guess. We're gonna go 1 and then we're gonna go down because that's the only way that this list will kind of make sense. Okay, so in first place we have fantasy, my number 1 genre. I love fantasy. I love so many different aspects of fantasy, so many different subgenres. Like, I'm a fantasy girly pop. I really am. My second genre that is categorized by Storygraph is manga. You would be correct. You would be correct. This one kind of surprised me. We have a tie for number 3. And when I say kind of, I mean, this actually did shock me. It truly did. And I understand it's just my brain, but we have a tie. I read 16 books in 2 different genres, which is sci-fi and horror. I'm shocked by that. I understand that I read horror and I don't understand. Like, I understand that they're horror, but my brain just doesn't think of them as it because I'm not horrified. Like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, it's not it. I never read that book. Like, that in my mind is horror. And I feel like Cheyenne, that's not. I understand. I understand. I'm saying my brain doesn't register something as horror unless I find it deeply horrific. Vampires, zombies. Like, I've literally had a conversation before and I was like, oh, wait, you consider Resident Evil to be a horror? I mean, I just consider it zombies. I kid you not, my first year in university, I had a conversation with someone and I literally said that. The offense is I said that to a man. And I meant it. I read 56 books that were a part of a series. Okay, so tip up top. Storygraph does this thing where it gives you in their system the most shelved book that you read and the least shelved book that you read. And then it also gives the highest rated book that you read and it shows the highest rating in their system. Right? So we're going to do those 3 and then we're going to go on to my honorable mentions. So, my most shelved book, or the most shelved book in their system that I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So, this was shelved in their system 926,120 times or by users, right? I rated this book 2.75. I'm also doing a deep dive on it. Well, I'm doing a deep dive on the series, but I'm currently on this one. Um, the average rating of this book, you might be surprised, is 3.98. Least shelved book, at least on Storygraph, that I read was Mama the Blood Taker, Volume 1 by Akira Sugito. It was shelved 384 times. I rated it 2.24 because at the time, see, I try not to compare everything to Bridgerton. And then the average was 3.3. Highest rated book in their system that I read, which is not the most shelved, which is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I rated this book 3.3 no, 3.75, and the average was 4.53. Let's go to my 4 honorable mentions. I only have 3 of them. Because one of them was an audiobook. I would love to have this book again. It's Hee It's Ha Ha. And that is Ruby Red. I, on a whim, was just like looking at Libby, being like, can I have, like, give me something that's available right now. And that was Ruby Red. And I was just like, back in the YA girly. So I rated that book 3 stars. Because, okay, I want to point out, that a lot of these books that I'm saying that I gave it is not very high scores to a lot of people. Um, which, I mean, 2 stars, I can see how that's very low. And then a lot of it is like, we have one 5-star read. And then, yes, we have Sunrise on the Reaping, but I'm like, let me give some honorable mentions. So it's just like, why do you even like reading? Well, I mean, let me show some books that I read in 2025 that I gave what I consider either like a good reading or very good reading, or books like I think were fun. Like I had good memories reading it, right? I read this with the book bingo. Oh my gosh, I have a story with this book. So we have Depravity, by M.J. Hong. When I was younger, I found this book and I read it and I loved it. I read this book so many times and then I forgot the name of it. It was an older, like it was a different cover. Is that like, or at least no, it was this same cover. I just couldn't remember what the cover looked like. All memory of this book left me. It took me, I kid you not, years for me to find this book again. And it literally took me going on Google, like the voice, like voice search, and I described this entire book, everything that I can recall, and then I found it. Some readers would know the joyous feeling I am talking about. I know that because my first year of university, I had this thing where if you told me a plot description, especially for a YA book, and you didn't know what the book title was or anything like that, or even like the cover, if you told me the description of it, I could find you that book. But I couldn't do it for this. And then one day, one winter, in Google, Goodreads popped up, and then I found it. And then I found it. So of course then I bought the books. It's a trilogy. So I rated this book 4 stars. Oh, we're gonna do a book that came out in 2025 because obviously Ruby Red and this book did not come out, and even the book that the last book I'm going to mention that didn't come out in 2025. The Nebulous by Jade Presley. Listen, I love this book. Now the fourth guy, I'm not like that into, and that whole thing wasn't that into. The overarching story I did also like, a bit predictable, but that's okay. Um, so let's get into like something about this. Is I didn't know if I would like this book. I was walking in a bookstore and I saw this and I'm like, she's kind of cute. Okay, like specifically the end pages. I'm like, okay, kind of cute. Um, and I was like, okay. but I didn't want to like invest in getting it if I didn't want it. So I did what every girly pop does, and I went to my library and I looked on Libby and I was like, "Do you have it? Do." Typed it in. Not only did they have it, they had it ready. Okay, I ate this book up. Again, I didn't really like the fourth guy, but that's okay. You don't have to like all of them. But I like this book so much. I, in fact, read this book 2 times. I read this book 2 times and then I went, okay, I'm going to buy the book. Because to me, I've already proved to myself that not only do I like this book, but I will reread it. Next and lastly, for my honorable mentions, it's a book that I am actively reading, which is Pride and Prejudice manga classic. Now, this book, fun fact, I read it when I was in middle school and high school. I cannot specifically remember what year it was, but I was just this time I was going through my library, and I was like looking through the shelves and I saw this, and I'm like, and this was like when I was starting to like enter manga territory, but I wasn't really there, right? And so I didn't know like if I liked manga. And I was like, okay, well I like Pride and Prejudice. Um Now to be fair, at that point I had never read Pride and Prejudice um by like Jane Austen. I had, you know, seen the movie. So when I say I like Pride and Prejudice at the time, I liked the movie. So I was really taking a gamble because I watched the movie, I loved the movie, never read the book. Now, on top of that, I'm reading the manga, and it's just like, what if I don't like manga? But I I read it and I loved it, and I kept on checking this book out too. And this was the first 5-star read that I realized what a 5-star read in my heart was, which was excellent, which is how Goodreads initially explained it to me, which is it's excellent. I will reread it multiple times. When I got this, that is kind of when I made the decision that every year I'm going to try and read this book at least once a year. Have I done that since I got the book? No. There's been years I've forgotten to do it, or I read it multiple times in a year, and that's okay. But the intention is there. So that is my last honorable mention. Um, and that is my 2025 reading wrapped. That being said, we are going to mention the fourth book that I read in 2026. It is a book that I try to read once a year. Do I do that? I don't think I read it every year. I try my best since I got it to read it every year, but I cannot remember if I was successful. Sometimes I read it multiple times a year, just like Pride and Prejudice. And that is, if not Winter, by Fragments of Sappho, translated by Anne Carson. I try to read this book every year, and it is my first read of 2026. Um, I'm also reading Pride and Prejudice, as you can like hear. Like 2 other books that I am actively reading as well as Crown of Midnight and Iron Flame. So I hope you enjoy this video. That's all I got for you right now, and good night.